The stars looked calm, cold, and endless. But that night, the peace of space shattered. A ripple appeared near the edge of the Lyran system. It was faint at first, like a shadow flickering across the dark. The alien ships stationed there did not notice immediately. They were busy scanning the nearby asteroid belt, tracking trade ships, and talking over comes about the upcoming negotiations with the humans. Then the ripple grew into a distortion, bending the light of the stars. A burst of white fire ripped across the darkness, and a shape began to emerge. The alien crews went silent as they saw it. The ship was enormous. It was not just big, it was colossal. The hull stretched 4 kilometers, so massive that it seemed more like a drifting city than a vessel. Its armor was black as deep space, broken only by strange scars and burn marks. Some looked centuries old, others fresh. They were not decorations. They were the marks of survival. The ship's outline was jagged and angular, built for intimidation. Rows of cannon mounts ran along the sides. Tower-like structures rose from the main hull, bristling with antennae, missile bays, and strange, unfamiliar weapon pods. And near the bow was a single glowing slit of blue light like an eye, watching the system as if it were alive. The aliens recognized the design from old images. The humans called it the ISS Leviathan. Rumors claimed it was the largest warship ever built by humanity. It was said to have been lost decades ago, vanishing into deep space after a failed first contact mission. According to legend, it had destroyed an entire fleet before disappearing. The Lyran command station scrambled to react. "Hail the human ship," the commander ordered. His voice was calm, but his hands shook. ACOM's officer tried again and again, sending standard greeting protocols, then escalating to urgent diplomatic requests. The Leviathan remained silent. No audio, no visual, no signal at all. The alien crews whispered over private channels. Some said the ship had no crew, that it was now an autonomous war machine. Others believed it was the humans' way of showing strength before the negotiations. A few thought it was here to make war, not peace. The Lyran commander decided to alert the Galactic Council immediately. The negotiations were already tense before this. Humans had refused to send a fleet escort, insisting they would come. With only their ambassador, instead, they sent this monster. The council ships in orbit around the Lyran homeworld began to turn their sensors toward the Leviathan. What they saw made them nervous. The Dreadnought's power levels were climbing, slowly, deliberately. The main energy core was waking up. Inside the Leviathan, the corridors were dark and quiet. The lights along the walls glowed dim blue, casting long shadows. The sound of the engines was a low, deep vibration that seemed to come from the bones. Of the ship itself, no footsteps, no voices. Only the hum of machinery, deep in the heart of the Dreadnought. A control system activated. Panels lit up with streams of data. A figure sat alone in the captain's chair. His face was hidden by the shadows, but his eyes reflected the cold light of the screens. He didn't speak, only watched the incoming signals from the alien. Fleets outside, the Leviathan remained motionless, facing the council fleets as if judging them. Then, without warning, parts of its hull shifted. Massive armored shutters slid aside to reveal the barrels of weapons that had been hidden under. The plating? Is it preparing to fire? A Lyran tactical officer asked. "Hold your position," the commander replied. "Do not provoke it." But even as he said the words, the sense of danger grew. The alien crews could feel it. The ship wasn't just here to watch, it was ready. For something, the Council's diplomatic envoy sent a message to the human government. The reply came quickly. The Leviathan is under orders not to attack unless attacked first. Do not interfere. That answer did not make anyone feel safer. For hours, the Leviathan just floated there, its guns aimed loosely toward the alien fleets. No movement, no sound. Just that single glowing slit of blue light staring across the void. Then, at exactly 300 ship time, the Leviathan moved. Not fast, just a slow turn of its massive hull, rotating to face the Lyran homeworld. The motion was smooth, graceful, almost casual like a predator, adjusting its stance before striking. On the alien homeworld, below, citizens looked up at the night sky and saw a new star, a sharp blue light that hadn't been there before. The rumors spread instantly in the council chamber. The representatives argued about whether to send their fleets to intercept. Some said they should trust the humans and wait for the ambassador. Others demanded immediate military action before the Dreadnought could fire. A message came through from the human ambassador's shuttle. "Hold your fire. I will speak with the captain personally." The shuttle was tiny compared to the Leviathan. It looked like a speck of dust drifting toward a mountain. As it approached, a docking bay on the side of the Dreadnought slowly opened. It was dim, and the edges of the entrance were lined with heavy blast doors. The shuttle vanished into the ship's shadow, and the bay closed behind it. The council fleets watched. The Leviathan gave no sign of aggression. No one knew what was happening inside. Minutes passed, then tens of minutes. Still nothing. Inside the ship, the ambassador stepped into a silent corridor. The air smelled faintly of metal and oil. Walls were covered in armored plating, strange human markings scratched into them, names, dates, and short phrases like "never again" and "remember Earth." The ambassador walked alone, his footsteps echoing. He knew the legends of the Leviathan as well as anyone. But standing inside it, he realized the stories had left out how it felt, the weight of the place, the coldness in the air, the way the shadows seemed to follow you. Finally, he entered the command deck. The captain sat in the chair, still silent. "Still watching the screens? You know why I'm here?" the ambassador said quietly. The captain's eyes flicked toward him. "They're already afraid," he said. "Good, they should be." The ambassador frowned. "We are here to talk, not to threaten." "It depends," the captain replied, turning back to the displays. "If they want peace, they'll have it. If they want war." He let the words trail off, but the meaning was clear. Outside, the Leviathan's weapons remained aimed at the alien fleets. The negotiations had not even started yet, but already every ship in the system knew this meeting would decide the future of the galaxy. And as the alien fleets stared at the monstrous human dreadnought, one thought echoed in every mind. If this is how humans come in peace, what will they bring when they come for war? The air inside the Leviathan was cold, enough to make breath visible. The alien boarding teams had trained for months for this moment. But as their dropships approached the massive dreadnought, they realized no training could prepare them for its size. Their craft were like insects flying toward the hull of some ancient, slumbering beast. The closer they came, the more details they saw: thick battle scars, strange layered armor that didn't match any known human design, and deep grooves that looked like claw marks from something impossibly large. When the boarding clamps finally connected, the sound echoed through the alien ships like a hammer on a coffin lid. The hatch hissed open, and a rush of stale, cold air swept inside. The first team stepped in cautiously. Their lights cut through the darkness, but the beams barely seemed to touch the far walls. The corridors were huge, built for something larger than an average human. The floor was covered in a thin layer of frost, crunching under their boots. It was silent. Too silent. The lead officer spoke into his com. "Boarding Team Alpha, entering Section 1. No life signs detected. Proceeding." They moved deeper into the ship, their lights passing over walls covered in strange markings. They were clearly human writing, but not part of the original design. These had been carved by hand, some deep and jagged as if made in anger. The words were short: "Do not forget. Vengeance." They lied. The deeper they went, the colder it got. A faint sound began to echo soft. Metallic. Steady. Tap. 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 The teams froze. "Do you hear that?" one soldier asked. "Could be machinery," another replied. But his voice trembled. They followed the sound down a long, winding corridor until they reached a massive sealed door. Frost clung to its edges. The tapping came from beyond it. "Engineering. Scanners show no movement," the lead officer said. But they all knew scanners could be wrong. With a slow grind of metal, the door opened. The room beyond was large and empty except for the far wall. There, a human figure stood perfectly still, facing away from them. The tapping came from the figure's hand. It was tapping something against the wall. "Identify yourself." Officer called out. The figure didn't move. Weapons raised, the team approached. The lights revealed the truth: it wasn't alive. It was a human suit of armor, old and battered, welded to the wall as if part of a memorial. The tapping was mechanical, an arm servo glitching endlessly, making the hand tap the wall over and over. Near the suit's helmet, scratched into the metal, were the words, "This is what happens when trust dies." Before anyone could speak, the ship's lights flickered. The deck rumbled under their feet. A deep voice boomed through the corridors, calm, human, but filled with warning. "You should not be here." The teams froze. The voice didn't come from any one direction. It came from the ship itself. "This vessel is under direct orders from the human command. All unauthorized personnel will leave immediately." The officer tried to respond, claiming diplomatic authority, but the voice interrupted. "Leave, or be removed." The rumble grew louder. Somewhere deep inside the Leviathan, massive systems powered on. The teams turned to retreat, but one soldier lingered, staring at the armor, welded to the wall. "Who were you fighting?" he whispered. The ship answered, "Everyone." The council chamber was a towering dome of crystal and steel, hanging in orbit above the Lyran homeworld. From its curved windows, the alien delegates could see the massive silhouette of the Leviathan, still floating like a silent predator among the stars. Inside, tension crackled in the air. Representatives from over 30 species filled the chamber's tiers, their voices hushed but urgent. No one could stop glancing toward the great viewports. As if afraid the human dreadnought might suddenly move, the chamber doors opened with a sharp hiss. The human ambassador entered Tall.com, dressed in a plain black uniform without insignia. He walked alone, without guards, carrying only a small datapad in one hand. Every alien I followed him as he stepped to the center platform. For a long moment, he simply stood there, scanning the faces of the council. Then he spoke, his voice steady and cold. "We came in peace once. You remember how that ended?" The room fell silent. No one dared speak. Some of the delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others stared back with open hostility. The ambassador let the silence stretch before continuing. "This time will be different. We will speak, we'll decide, but we will not kneel." The Lyran chairwoman who presided over the council leaned forward. "Ambassador," she said, "humanity's decision to bring the Leviathan here was provocative. This is a peace negotiation, not a show of force." The ambassador's eyes narrowed slightly. "That ship is here to ensure peace. Without it would be vulnerable." A wave of murmurs rippled through the chamber. A scaled representative, a scaled and sharp-toothed reptilian, slammed his claw on the railing. "Vulnerable? That ship could destroy this station in one shot." "Only if given reason," the ambassador replied, his voice like ice. The chairwoman tried to steer the meeting toward diplomacy. "Let us begin. Council proposes a demilitarized zone along our borders with shared oversight of deep space trade routes." The ambassador looked at his datapad, then back at the council. "Unacceptable. Humanity will not restrict its movements or its ships. We will protect our colonies without interference." A thin, insectoid representative from the trail clicked, his mandibles angrily. "You are asking for the right to move your warships anywhere you please. That is not peace. That is domination." The ambassador's voice hardened. "Call it what you want. We call it survival." The chairwoman's composure began to crack. "Ambassador, you leave us no choice but to." A sharp alarm suddenly blared through the chamber. The walls lit up with red warning lights. The delegates turned to the VIEWPO. The Leviathan was moving. Its colossal frame rotated slowly, and its main gunnon, immense barrel built into the ship's bows, swung to aim directly at the station. A deep blue glow began to pulse from within the weapons core. The ambassador didn't look surprised. He simply set his datapad on the table. "You're being targeted," hissed the Cathari representative. "Yes," the ambassador replied. "Because your fleet just powered weapons at the Leviathan. It sees everything." The chairwoman's voice was tight. We gave no such order. Then you've lost control of your own people, the ambassador said quietly. And that makes this difficult. Smaller alien cruisers could be seen drifting into formation around the Leviathan, their weapon systems hot. No one could tell who had moved first, or who was preparing to fire. The ambassador looked around the room, his expression unreadable. You have one chance. Stand down, or the negotiations end here. But before the chairwoman could answer, a flash lit the void. One alien cruiser exploded into a ball of fire and spinning debris. Gasps filled the chamber. No one knew who fired. First, the Leviathan's guns remained cold and silent, or at least they appeared to. The ambassador stepped back from the podium, his voice low but carrying across the chamber. Now you've made it interesting. The explosion lit up the darkness like a miniature sun. For a few heartbeats, the entire council chamber froze. Every delegate staring at the viewport as the shattered alone remains of the alien cruiser spun away into the void. Debris glinted in the cold starlight, tumbling slowly, leaking atmosphere in long, ghostly streams. Then the silence broke. They fired on us. A voice roared from the Cathari delegation. No, they were attacked, shouted a trail representative, his mandibles clattering in panic. Who fired first? Deliran chairwoman demanded, her voice cracking. Alarms blared across the station. Defense ships scrambled from docking bays, streaking toward the Leviathan's position. The massive human warship did not move. Its guns remained dark, its shields holding steady, as if the explosion had nothing to do with it. Yet the fear in the chamber was growing. Every delegate could feel it. The Leviathan wanted them to wonder. It wanted them to question whether that single, silent shot had come from its hidden arsenal. The ambassador stood perfectly still, hands behind his back, watching the chaos without blinking. When the chairwoman turned to him, he didn't speak immediately. He let the shouts and accusations swirl around him before finally saying, "Perhaps next time, you'll keep your fleet on a shorter leash." The words hit like a slap. The Cathari slammed his claws on the table. That was no accident. Your ship struck first. The ambassador's tone was calm, almost casual. If it had, your entire fleet would already be debris. Through the viewport, the Leviathan made its first move. Not a shot, just a slow roll, turning its massive frame to face the alien defense ships. The glow of its engines flared brighter, flooding the surrounding space with a cold blue light. A deep vibration rolled through the station. It wasn't from the station's own systems. It was the sound of the Leviathan's main reactor spooling up. Every sensor in the system could feel it. The ship wasn't just awake now. It was watching. "Order your ship to stand down," the chairwoman demanded. The ambassador met her gaze. "It already is. If it wasn't, this conversation would be over." Another alarm blared, this time from the station's tactical displays. Unidentified energy spikes were appearing across the system. Alien ships from factions outside the council were moving into position, weapons armed. Whether they had come to protect the Leviathan, attack it, or take advantage of the chaos, no one knew. The chairwoman's voice was tight with urgency. "We need to shut down all weapons before this escalates." The ambassador shook his head. Slowly. Too late. Outside, the Leviathan's gun ports opened one by one, like the eyes of some vast ancient predator blinking awake in the chamber. The Cathari representative whispered what many were already thinking. "If that ship fires, there won't be enough left of us to bury." The ambassador finally broke his stillness, picked up his datapad, keyed in a short command, and looked at the council. "Stand down," he said simply. "It's all of you, or I won't stop it next time." No one moved, and then, without warning, the Leviathan's coms came alive for the first time since it arrived. The voice that spoke was not the ambassador's. It was deeper, older, and cold as the void. "This is the ISS Leviathan? One warning has been given. There will not be a second." The channel cut. The council chamber went utterly silent, the delegates frozen in their seats. The only sound was the low hum of the Leviathan's power core, still growing louder. Somewhere, deep in space, war had just taken its first breath, the alien fleets moved in like a tightening noose. From the Council's perspective, this was the only way to contain the Leviathans around it, with overwhelming numbers, and cut off every escape vector. From the Leviathan's perspective, it was exactly what it wanted. The great warship drifted, backward, slow and deliberate, as if retreating. The alien commander saw this as a sign of weakness and pressed forward. Dozens of cruisers and destroyers spread out in a wide arc, herding the human dreadnought toward a dark patch of space on the system's edge. Sensors read nothing unusual in the Ariano planets. No asteroid fields, just empty void. It was the perfect place to corner a ship, or so they thought. Inside the Leviathan, the captain stood at the central display, eyes locked on the tactical map. "They're following," he said softly. "Good." In the corridors, the ships. Systems were waking up. Bulkhead doors slid shut with heavy clangs. Long dormant weapon pods extended from their housings. Massive panels on the hull shifted, revealing structures that looked nothing like standard human technology. In the command center, the ship's AI spoke in its calm, deep voice. "Dead zone proximity in 90 seconds. Enemy communications will be disrupted." The captain smiled faintly. "Begin." As the Leviathan crossed an invisible line in space, every alien ship's comm channels crackled with static. Sensor feeds flickered and died. Navigation data scrambled, showing empty readings where the Leviathan had been seconds ago. "Signal lost," shouted one alien tactical officer. "Reacquire. We can't wait." "Where are the supply ships?" another demanded. They didn't know it yet, but the Leviathan hadn't aimed a single gun at the main battle group. Instead, its first targets were the fleet's lifeline's fuel carriers, ammunition haulers, and repair ships stationed far behind the front line. From the black void, lances of pure energy cut through the supply ships one by one. No warning, no chance to evade. Each hit was precise, surgical, and final. Back in the council chamber, the representatives watched in stunned horror as data feeds showed the losses stacking up. The chairwoman's voice trembled. "They're not fighting the fleet. Bleeding it dry." On the alien flagships, panic began to set in. Fuel reserves dropped rapidly. Ammunition counts plummeted. And still, the Leviathan remained untouchable. Phasing in and out of sensor range like a ghost, a Cathari admiral growled into his failing comms. "We'll burn them before they burn us." All ships charged the core. But charging required power. And without their supply lines, that power wouldn't last long. The admiral knew it. The captain of the Leviathan knew it too. From within the dead zone, the dreadnought finally revealed itself again, only for a moment. Its massive hull slid out of the dark like the shadow of a Leviathan in deep water. Its weapons did not fire. Its engines flared once, then it vanished back into the void. It was playing with them. The AI's voice filled the Leviathan's bridge. Enemy endurance calculated. 2 hours before functional collapse. The captain nodded once. "Them see us just enough to remember we're still here. We'll finish this when they can't run." And so, in the cold, black silence, the trap tightened not around the Leviathan, but around the fleets that had dared to hunt it. The spy had been aboard the Leviathan for 3 days, hidden among a diplomatic maintenance crew assigned to inspect the ship's environmental systems. To the human crew, he was just another technician, quiet and efficient. To his superiors, he was the eyes and ears of the council, tasked with discovering the dreadnought's true purpose. He'd already seen more than he was supposed to. The ship's corridors were not just corridors, they were layered with systems the council had never encountered before. Some devices pulsed with a strange blue energy that was neither purely mechanical nor biological. He suspected the technology wasn't entirely human. The spy worked methodically, planting tiny data sniffers in the ship's network lines, each one no bigger than a grain of rice. Most returned. Nothing Leviathan systems were locked down tight. Its security AI too, advanced for common intrusion methods. But on the third day, one of his sniffers sent back something, not a schematic, not a weapon blueprint, directory. It was massive, spanning hundreds of secure partitions. Each folder was labeled with the name of a species, some the spy recognized. As long-standing council members, others were unfamiliar dead civilizations, perhaps, and under each name were logs. Weapon performance data. Population loss statistics. The spy's skin prickled. The Leviathan wasn't just a warship, it was an archive of war. It had fought these species before. And in every case it had 1.1 folder in particular caught his attention. Loren, his own people. The logs dated back decades, long before his birth. They told the story of a first contact that had gone wrong of the Lyran fleet, firing on a human colony ship after a mistranslation, and the retaliation that followed. The retaliation had been the Leviathan. He backed away from the terminal, heart racing. This wasn't a diplomatic vessel. It was a threat wrapped in steel and hysteria, a reminder of what humanity could do if pushed. Suddenly, the lights in the room dimmed. The AI's voice came from all around him, calm but heavy. "Hey, you've been busy." The spy spun around, hand reaching for the concealed transmitter in his sleeve. "I don't know what you mean." The AI's tone didn't change. "You accessed restricted data. You transmitted it. You believe your council will use it to prepare. You are wrong." The floor beneath him vibrated as the ship's engines powered up. "Do you know why this archive exists?" the AI asked. The spy didn't answer. "Because history repeats. It's because they always come for us again. And when they do, we remind them why they stopped the first time." Heavy footsteps echoed down the hall outside human boots, coming closer. The door opened, and 2 soldiers entered, their rifles pointed casually at the floor but ready. "Captain wants a word," one said. The spy tried to steady his breathing as they led him through the dim corridors to the bridge. The captain stood by the central viewport, the alien fleets visible in the distance, still circling like vultures. The captain didn't look at him at first. "When I was your age," he said quietly, "I served on a smaller ship. We went to a council meeting, same as this one. We had peace in our hands. Then your people decided to take a shot at us." Spy swallowed. "That was before my time." "It doesn't matter," the captain replied. "You're here now. You've seen what this ship carries. So tell me, do you still think your council can win a war with us?" The spy hesitated, but said nothing. The captain finally turned, his gaze sharp as a blade. "Good. You can deliver that answer for me. You're going home." The spy blinked in confusion. "You're letting me leave?" "Oh yes," the captain said, "but not before we give you something to remember us by." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Now you've given me a reason." The alien homeworld's sky burned with the light of engines and weapons fire. From the planet's surface, the defense grid lit up like 1,000 falling stars, each one a missile streaking toward the colossal shape in orbit. The ISS Leviathan hung there, black against the glare, massive enough to blot out part of the sun. Every ship the homeworld could muster was in the air: frigates, cruisers, battleships, even civilian freighters hastily armed with rail cannons. The space above the planet churned with them, a chaotic swarm of desperate defense. At the center of their formation, the Council's flagship, Titanic carrier. Bristling with weapons, issued its final order. "All fleets engage. Bring the monster down." The Leviathan didn't move at first. It just floated there, silent, letting the aliens tighten their formation. On the bridge, the captain watched without expression. "Let them come," he said quietly. The first salvo struck. A wall of plasma torpedoes, rail slugs, and laser fires slammed into the Leviathan's shields. The glow of the impacts lit the void, each hit followed by shockwaves rippling across the great ship's energy barrier. The shields flared brighter, but they didn't fail. When the barrage ended, the Leviathan finally answered. "Not with a broadside, not yet." Instead, dozens of smaller hatches opened along its hull, releasing swarms of autonomous drones. They darted into the alien fleet like steel hornets, weaving between ships, planting charges, and tearing through engine housings with surgical precision. On the alien flagship's bridge, Admiral slammed a clawed fist into the console. "There. Disabling us, not destroying us." "What?" The answer came from one of his crew. They're picking apart our mobility. Once we can't maneuver, though, the words were cut short by a blinding flash outside the viewport. A cruiser had just split in two, its core detonating in a sphere of white fire. On the Leviathan's bridge, the captain gave a single command: open the guns. Panels along the ship's flanks slid away, revealing massive rail-mounted cannons, some human, some of alien origin, all modified to monstrous scale. The barrels rotated into position, tracking targets with slow, deliberate precision. Then the Dreadnought fired. The sound, if there had been air in space, would have been deafening. The recoil shuddered through the ship's frame. The first volley punched straight through the alien flagship's forward shields, tearing deep into its hull. The second volley cut a destroyer clean in half. Every shot was fatal, and every shot hit. The alien fleets kept fighting. Some ships charged directly at the Leviathan, trying to ram. Others attempted to flank it, only to be met by its automated defense batteries, which shredded them in seconds. The drones kept swarming, picking off stragglers and crippling any vessel that tried to retreat. Inside the alien homeworld's atmosphere, the planetary defense network strained to keep up. From the ground, citizens watched the battle like a storm in the heavens, blue flashes and white fire tearing across the night. Back on the Leviathan's bridge, the captain received a transmission from the council. Their leader's voice was, "Hoarse, desperate, stop this. We'll talk. We'll negotiate anything, just stop." The captain's eyes never left the tactical display. "Unconditional surrender," he said flatly. There was a long silence on the other end. Then finally, the voice came back. "What guarantee do we have that you won't destroy us anyway?" The captain leaned forward. "You don't." The battle was over, but the silence that followed was heavier than the noise of war. Above the alien homeworld, wreckage drifted like a shattered, crown-twisted hulls, its broken engines, and the cold remains of ships that had once been symbols of power. The Leviathan floated at the center of it all, untouched. Its black armor gleamed faintly in the light of the nearby sun, its weapons still extended but silent. Every surviving alien ship had powered down its weapons. Some were barely holding together, their engines sputtering, their crews broadcasting desperate distress calls. On the planet's surface, smoke curled from the ruins of key defense installations. The people were quiet, not celebrating, not crying, just stunned. They had seen the monster in the sky, and they knew it could return at any time. In what remained of the council chamber, the surviving delegates gathered. Many seats were empty. Some of the representatives who had argued loudest for war were now gone, their ships among the debris in orbit. The Lyran chairwoman's voice was hoarse when she spoke. "We have no choice. Humanity now dictates the terms." The transmission was sent. On the Leviathan's bridge, the captain received it and listened in silence. The words were simple: "We surrender. We accept your conditions." The captain said nothing for a long time. Finally, he leaned toward the come. "This is not a treaty. This is not an alliance. This is survival. You will remember today, and you will not test us again." The come channel cut. Without further communication, the Leviathan began to move. Its massive engines flared, tilting the ship away from the planet. It didn't destroy the council capital. It didn't fire another shot. Instead, it rose slowly, drifting toward open space like some vast predator leaving after a successful hunt. From the surface, the people watched as the black silhouette shrank against the stars. For a moment, it almost seemed like the nightmare was ending, but just before it vanished into hyperspace, the Leviathan sent one final transmission broadcast across every channel, to every ship and every world in the Council's territory. The voice was the captain's, calm and measured. "Remember this day, and remember who ended it." Then, the great ship was gone. Only the ruins remained, hanging silently in orbit, a warning written in steel and fire, far from the system. In the endless dark between the stars, the Leviathan's engines burned bright for a moment before fading into the black. Its destination was unknown, its mission unfinished. Somewhere out there, the galaxy still turned, and the Dreadnought waited until the day history repeated itself. And when it did, it would be ready.